Gypsy, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you as our first guest on this podcast,
Thank you.
Wellness Culture Connect, with a series name that has elicited a little bit of curiosity, which is Reaching Your Bliss Through Your Blisters. Now, I'm sure you know what I'm referring to at some level.
Deep levels, yes.
So when I chose the name for the series, Reaching Your Bliss Through Your Blisters, I was actually thinking of the hero's journey and the whole story of Joseph Campbell's book, How to Reach Your Bliss, and the hero having to undergo a range of trials and tribulations as a necessary passage to enlightenment, to success, and to, upgrading to their next level in whatever area. And what's interesting about you is the fact that you have actually done that through what is one of the most popular types of exploration that we see nowadays, which is embodied mindfulness, movement, meditation, and this one word, embodiment, which a lot of people are curious about, but not so many people understand. So as a performer who has been working worldwide, Cirque du Soleil, yoga, teacher training, holistic practitioner, wellness coach, the theme that comes across when I talk to you and when I actually experienced one of your classes was that really you have elevated the whole notion of embodiment to an art. And this is why you're my number one, or my numero uno, as we're both of Italian origin. And this is why I'm actually going to just kick right off and ask you the very first question that I have in mind for today, which is, what's keeping you engaged and enthusiastic in your universe these days?
Off the bat, how many synchronicities that continue to occur daily. And this can come in the form of when you're thinking of something, how it's reflected back in a mirror, that instant manifestation, whether it might be numbers that you're seeing, you think of someone, they call you. This excites me about the important time that we're living in. And I think what keeps me excited about my particular purpose is to remember that I'm a light worker. Now, if you don't know what that means, light is also the word for love, and it's also the word for spirit, and spirit is the word for consciousness. And so we are here to raise consciousness. That's my purpose. And in that aspect of when you say, yes, I teach wellness, embodiment, I've been through most of my life in these trials and tribulations to stay connected to the inner journey, as opposed to letting the outer world tell me what it is that I'm supposed to feel. So this time that we are all living in is a very important time, because in a nutshell, we are quickly and rapidly feeling people get more switched on to various practices of enlightenment, embodiment, meditation, what we take in from the cleanest of waters to our mindset, to what it is that we eat and what we put in. How are we nourishing ourselves? I think in my parents' generation and even the generations before, they lost contact and didn't have time to take the time to really look within. And nowadays, people are seeing that we have time if we make time to sit and practice with a new way of, whether it be prayer, whether it be a connection through our culture, through our family, through our roots. I think the COVID years really shifted this perspective. It's allowed more people to stop and go inward. And like I say, this time is allowing us to understand how to come closer together as opposed to be divided apart when we're seeing the world so polarized with what's happening on the planet. And so instead of viewing it with a mindset of all these horrific things are happening, not to ignore it, but there's always going to be a dark world and a light world. What's keeping me, to go back to the original question, engaged and enthusiastic, is to remember that I'm part of the light world. And I want to bring more people in and help them remember that they're also part of this galactic team here on Earth, to be light, to be love, to be spirit, which is conscious rising. And that's felt throughout the universe.
So if I understand, how beautifully put, and this is also another reason why I'm so happy for you to be the first guest in this podcast series, because you're really able to infuse a sense of soulfulness in what you share, in talking about topics that are actually age old, but have now been at some level reinvented for the particular challenges that we all face today, which ultimately are all about finding ways to distract ourselves from the gravitational pull of distraction. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but it really ultimately means that we have to find ways to live self-care, not just as a nice to have, but actually as a must have. So as a light worker, which now is a nomenclature that has probably entered the mainstream and the zeitgeist, it's important for you to be able to share these skills and in many ways to popularize them with a whole category and audience of people across all sectors and ages and backgrounds who may not be absolutely familiar with the mechanics of what that means, but are actually now finally open to exploring. And this is why it's so fascinating for you at many levels to be able to call yourself that and to be able to actually embody that. And in this sense, it probably leads me to my next question, which is all about jeans, not the ones that you wear, not the Levi's, but jeans as, jeans loading the gun and lifestyle pulling the trigger, that sort of thing. And effectively, if you are able to exude the vibrancy that is your hallmark, not only as a woman, but also as a light worker or an embodiment specialist, expert, practitioner, whatever you want to call yourself, what is it that you do for yourself in your lifestyle on a day-to-day basis in order to maximize that potential?
Thank you for how beautifully you reiterated what I said. And I agree with you that it's not an option anymore. It's a must. It's a must to put into practice self-care and healthy mindset. And again, putting in the good things into the body. So in regards to genes, I feel quite fortunate that I came from good stock with very healthy family. We exercise, we spend a lot of time outside in nature and always have. We eat very healthy from the earth, very moderate, well-rounded, balanced diet and lifestyle. But what I really want to impart is the importance of mindset, because this is really 95% of everything. And we have the power with our mindset to reprogram our genes. And this comes through the neural pathways that are malleable. There was this age-old, I say age-old, but I don't know how long, that a lot of doctors and a lot of, medicine practitioners have said that you're born like this, if your family had this, you can get this. And sometimes when we're told from the outside in that this is how it's going to be, we can begin to believe that. And this is where programming can set us up for either a life of bliss or a life of suffering and pain, because when we're told something about ourselves, sometimes we tend to believe that. And if a doctor tells you, oh, well, you're going to have heart problems, it's your choice. Do you want to set your mind to what the doctor tells you, or wake up in the morning fresh from hopefully a good night's sleep, and start programming your mind every day with the power of your thoughts, not someone else's. And your thoughts are what is creating the universe within you and around you.
Do you
So we
visualize?
attract that. What's that?
So do you wake up in the morning and go and brush your teeth, get back into bed and spend 20 minutes in visualization? Is that something that you do? Because that's what I do. I'll be
Yes.
honest with you.
Yes. Well, sometimes I start right away with the visualization. Then I get up and actually I oil pull. I swish coconut oil in my mouth to take out the bad bacteria that is coming either up or down in the digestive tracts when we are sleeping. And this is an Ayurvedic practice, which I know you know about. And it's extremely good for the gut health, to remove the bacteria, so that, again, whether you brush your teeth or gargle with some salt or mouthwash or oil pull, I highly recommend this. Then yes, I get back in bed or I decide to meditate, and I allow every cell in my body to feel like they're smiling. I also visualize the people and the world I want around me in a positive way, in an enriching way, in a supportive way. Because
Do you
often
find that?
go
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry.
No,
Just
yeah, please ask.
as I think of things, do you find that your self-care routine has evolved over the years, or is it a sort of a set, let's call it protocol, that you tend to follow?
There's certain things I repeat every day, and there's many that have evolved. And I think this also comes with age and the timing of where we're at in life, what's happening, how much we're carrying, how much extra time we have, how much time do we have to have a morning practice? And if we don't have much time, then still at least just tuning in the morning with even just gratitude practice. I think that is what I would say is the most important. Can you wake up and just be grateful? Grateful to be alive, grateful for the day, grateful for who's in your world, your family, your friends, each other. And I've also started a practice where I send blessings to all the people that I will meet that day, even if I don't know them. So we send blessings out to the world, send blessings out. If you have a prayer practice, whether it's to your connection to Great Spirit and whatever you want to call that. For me, I also speak to my ancestors, my angels, my guides. So from a very spiritual practice, I allow my faith to be my greatest muscle.
Well, I think from what you're saying, you must have really developed sort of fairly strong attitudinal muscles through the variety of different things that you do for yourself. and the depth and range of, let's call it cosmic support that comes naturally to you. But for
I like
some
that.
people, but for some people, if we think about it, for whom the whole notion of self-care practice is as alien as, flying to Jupiter on a witch's broomstick, okay? I feel that perhaps one of the simplest indications that we could possibly consider is to say to them every morning, do your gratitudes, but also ask to forgive and get on with, or at least be neutral with people that we don't particularly like. Because I think that's the mark of really growing in emotional intelligence, when we can really begin to feel comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable, and also with recognizing in this polar sort of world, bipolar, multipolar world that we live in, that now the juxtaposition between light and shadow is extremely strongly poised, one in front of the other. And the only way to go towards the light is to really invalidate any darkness that we have within. And this actually brings me to my next question, which is probably the central point of this podcast, which is, how have you been able over the years, through your experience, strength, and hope, to actually overcome the range of quite serious problems, accidents, curveballs, challenges, or whatever you want to call them, that you've had in your career, that you've had in your health? How have you overcome these? How have you been able to reach your bliss through your blisters?
There's so much to unpack with this. I'll try to keep it. How do I want to say it? First, just to touch on, before I get into mine, to touch on, we're bringing up Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, or the heroine's journey. And it's interesting. Yesterday, I saw a meme of two of my favorite characters. One is Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. The other is Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Two heroines that get taken out of their normal reality and get spun through storms, thrown down rabbit holes into a world that is confusing, uncomfortable, sometimes pushing them into places where they might lose their life, or they're quite unsure, where they have to choose their battles or go into battle, all in a search for how do they find their way home. And what both of those characters do in the end, as we know, Dorothy realizes that the wizard is not real. He's this crazy man behind the curtain. And all along, he tells her, it's been inside of you all along. All you have to do is just wish really hard to go home. And home, to me, when people ask me, where's my home? I say it's this body. And that's where I take care of this body. If we look at Alice from Alice in Wonderland, it's the same kind of idea. Was she in this dream where, she's going through all these trials and tribulations, and in the end, she finds that her gift was always the imagination within herself and the truth within herself that can bring her back home. So, to answer for myself, I've had many blisters and cuts, as we all
List a
have in
few,
this
because
life.
some of them are quite dramatic. Just list a few, because I was reading your bio, and like 10 accidents, dancing accidents, car accidents. Just give us a little bit of a checklist, because it's really quite inspiring to see you look so vibrant and exude such charisma, and yet having really had moments of ill health physically, and a lot of drama in your nonetheless rather dramatic life, because you are a theatrical performer as well. That's one of the many hats that you've also worn over the years. So just give us a little bit of a snapshot of this, because it's really inspiring.
Sure, absolutely. I've been in multiple car accidents, 10 if we really just count, but one of them was nearly fatal. I was blown open in my skull, spinal fluid leaking into my brain. I was in a coma, 7 hours of surgery. I left my body. I flatlined at one point, my father tells me, and I had no idea when I woke up from this whole experience what had even happened to me. Therefore, the trauma that has lived within my body from that accident and many head collisions, including dance injuries, stunt injuries, where I've had people land on my neck, I've been dropped on my head, I've had whiplash in almost every direction, and I've had parts cut open in order to replace the surgeries in my forehead. Considering I would be what wouldn't be known as heavy brain traumatized, I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm almost 49 years old, and I know that yoga, the practice of movement, embodiment, dance, breath work, laughter, comedy, joy, being amongst loving, supportive friends and family have really been the greatest tools for me and nature. Of course, I can't leave out nature and good food, but those have been the best tools for me to live a vital life where I really keep coming back to the inner light within me. I want to also just leave this one, which is that I went through a period where I was in great duress, where I had been a victim. I would not call myself a victim ever, but at those times I was a victim to a psychopath that had taken me, lured me in, drugged me, kept me beyond being able to leave. And I spent 8 months trying to escape a dangerous man who was my captor. In all of those months, when I tried to escape numerous times, I was threatened, I was drugged. I spent a few times wondering how to get out. How could I survive? But somewhere inside, my light never dimmed, and I knew the joy and my purpose was still there. And I think that this resiliency is what any one of us, especially when I think about what people are going through right now with the wars around the world, people's internal battles, whether it's a relationship battle, whether it's an internal struggle with addictions, no matter what it is, it takes a strong will and ability to remember that we are here to serve the inner spirit and the consciousness, which I like to call, again, the divine spirit. You can call it God, whatever you want to choose, is given us this life. And we're here to use these virtues of perseverance, of humility, of finding the freedom within ourselves, even when maybe the world around us is closing in on us. So whether it's an accident, whether we've lost someone very dear to us, all of us are going to go through grief and pain and struggle and adversity. But where in that face of adversity, again, in the hero's journey, like Alice or like Dorothy, and like in all these wonderful stories where we've been able to see our hero almost die, only to pull into the depths of their soul and remember that we are here for purpose. And it's up to us to persevere and resurrect and fly like that phoenix rising from the ashes again and again and again. This is Tantra. This is yoga. Tantra is the destruction and the creation happening all at once. Whether we're dying, we're also being reborn. And that is every new day. So every day we go to bed and we wake up. And when we wake up, this is the opportunity to step back into this life. And there's where reflecting on being grateful. What do I have? Not what I don't have. I can go, we can all say, I don't have this, I want more of this. So if we focus on what we do have, then we are attracting that. If we continue to focus on what we don't have, what we need to get, it changes the energy of how we are cultivating and creating our world.
So this is probably one of the reasons why it would be fabulous for you to share what's on the horizon for you in the coming weeks. Because I feel from what we have planned together that it's actually the embodiment of the various things that you've been able to explain so lucidly this podcast so far.
Well, I am overjoyed and have curious wonder because you and I have come together and you've invited me in to be one of your experts and leaders in these upcoming weeks for our retreat that we are doing in the most beautiful part of the world, with the richest of soils, with the richest of culture. And this comes from my mother's family, which is in Italy.
And my father's family, which is in Italy.
I love this.
So we're both of Italian origin.
Yes.
We're both into wellness, and we're both connected to culture.
Yes. And so bringing more. So to be able to bring people together and connect with what we have to offer, which is wellness, embodied somatics. And if you don't know what that means, this is simply feeling what the body has to say, feeling the intelligence of the body, and taking the time to slow down.
Because another thing that is important for people to understand, which I've noticed with myself and in the class that I did with you in Amsterdam a few months ago, truly the body never lies. It's not a platitude. It's so true.
Yes.
But it's so important for us to have someone who is experienced in guiding us in how to actually listen to the voice. And in this plethora of options and like alternatives, and many of which are great and many of which are, debatably so, let's put it that way. The fact that you have been doing this for 30 years is honestly, Gypsy, one of the reasons why I invited you to be one of our other, we have 4 facilitators in all, and you're one of the 4. Because you've been training in this, hosting events in this, doing one-on-ones, retreats, and you look vibrant. And I feel as a retreat curator in many ways that our strategy for success is less promotion and more attraction. I want people to look at you and say, oh, I want what she has. And what does she have? Vibrancy, authenticity, charisma, and flexibility, not just with your spinal cord, which is clearly what the yogis say is one of the preeminent requisites for healthy longevity, but also flexibility in your mind and in your practices.
Absolutely.
So this is not intended as a plug for our forthcoming retreat. It really isn't, but it's actually intended as a system of living and a system of self-care.
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting, because I'm able to take everything that I've been cultivating and continuing to grow and learn and share. and even lift it into a different atmosphere, which is bridging the worlds of many different people, from my students to the other facilitator students to your people that we're bringing in around the world, and bringing them all together to experience the inner workings of how being in nature and being with a supportive team of experts and feeding ourselves well and taking the time to slow down and have this kind of slow food and breathing and experiencing and connecting through our hearts, through our bodies, through our eyes, through nature, how this brings us to a level of vitality and 100% like optimal wellness, because we're meant to connect as social creatures. And I think we've come from the last 4 years of a lot of isolation. And I know that even my story that I told you about before, I was in isolation. And there's where I had to keep connecting to my body, connecting to the earth. And I want to be able to share that with more people. And that's what's so exciting about our retreat coming up and our future retreats that are coming this year, is getting people to connect to their bodies, connect to nature, connect to how they're bringing in the information, and learning how to implement these practices to become more vibrant and more vital in their lives.
Really, yes. Or we should say, sí. Because the retreat will be in Tuscany. It will be the first of many. And the whole novelty that I'm bringing in with Wellness Culture Connect and this new chapter of our gatherings is we're not just focusing on the me, my body, my practice, my green juice, my chakras, my this, my that. I'm actually now really committed, or I see the intelligence in also bringing in the culture. Because if we don't ground what we do in nature, in a very sort of judicious choice of a seasonality. Now, the most beautiful season to experience Tuscany is in the autumn or the fall, as you would say in the States, because you harvest the glow. There's olives, there's grapes. The summer is sort of the golden embers of summer are just beginning to, quieten down, and the whole gestation of winter and the whole deep exploration of everything that we've harvested sort of comes to light in ways that, who knows, we really don't know at this point, but we shall find out.
So yes, absolutely. And
talking to me.
That said, at the level of witnessing how nature continues to proliferate, to continue its resilience. For example, if you pave a parking lot or you have a sidewalk, you will still see where trees or little plants want to grow up through the concrete. And the earth continues to regenerate. We are living in a time that's a bit scary. We hear and we see and we witness climate change and fracking and the raping of our earth and its natural resources. But with places like Tuscany coming up, especially, what I love about the Italian culture there is they've preserved the integrity of the land. And I think that teaches us, all of us, if we can look at this, to learn how to honor and respect nature and the culture that respects its own nature, the culture that we can respect our own bodies, is truly what we're bringing forward in this retreat and the way that I love to teach and share my practices.
Thank you for that. And that's exactly what I aim to do also with these podcasts, which is not just to invite anybody to come and chat to me, because it's all a question ultimately of being discerning. in whom we connect with, in what we do, in what we say, in who we bring into our sphere. And it's all, for me nowadays, more about quality than it is about quantity. And in many ways, that is a sort of a complete 360-degree like opposite to what the crazy world is trying to force feed into us, which is more is better. I would definitely say that less is more. And in this podcast, we'll be talking to people who reflect stories of well-being and people who reflect stories and narratives around culture. And we'll just see where it takes us. And in our retreats as well, we don't just want to talk about embodiment, which is a key pillar, but we also want our guests to keep in mind that there are science-based practices and innovations related to the wider topic, for want of a better word, health span extension, which are important for people to consider, digest, go home, think about it, and let these deep dives have some significance, which are in some way scalable and in some way virtual, so that we can continue the journey with them even after this talk and even after the retreat in ways that will reveal themselves. So thank you, Gypsy.
100%, absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
I'll be seeing you sooner rather than later.
I'm so excited. Yes.
Ciao. Ciao. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.
Hosting.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.